I'm going to start off with a few comments to give you guys a sense of what to expect. We will also go to the folks that are with us today to comment on their concerns around the bill, and we'll answer some questions at the end. Oregonians have made one thing incredibly clear. They can't afford new taxes and fees. Lawmakers in the Capitol are here today to impose those taxes on them. ODOT said as recently as last week that existing funding can be used to prevent layoffs and any service reductions. Still, the governor's proposal with a $5.8 billion price tag will cost the average Oregon household approximately $330 a year in taxes and fees. More than 3,500 Oregonians submitted public testimony this week, and the responses were overwhelmingly opposed. The last time my staff counted, and we all read through every single piece of testimony that was submitted, over 90% of people said, please do not pass this legislation. It will harm my family, it will harm my business. And after you hear from Senator Bonham, we will talk to some of those people today.
Yeah, honestly, the biggest concern I have is for the employees. And I'm glad that you showed up to this press conference. I'm glad to see the folks here. The number one thing we need to do with respect to ODOT is keep our roads and our bridges safe. Like, that is the number one thing that the state owes our constituents, is to perform the service that they expect, that they're paying the tax dollars for. And we have a lot of money that's flooded elsewhere in our state budget. And the people right now are saying, hey, we saw the revenue forecast, we know we're headed for difficult times, and we need core service delivered. So we're gonna hear from some Oregonians right now from throughout the state with different interests, and I think you're gonna hear a common theme. And this is what we're hearing out in the public. This is what we're hearing when we're engaged with our constituents. It's stopped at Safeway. Senator Bonham, what are we gonna do about this? I can't afford it. And it's consistent, and it's persistent. So with that, let's introduce the folks and hear from them.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
So I would like to start off today by introducing you to Xochitl Munoz, that owns La Margarita in Salem with her husband. Thank you.
Good morning. As a small business owner in Salem and a citizen, I'm asking you, the legislators and the senators, to vote no on any measure that would require businesses and citizens to pay more taxes. The governor's proposing an increase on payroll taxes, as well as higher prices on vehicle registration, title fees, license fees, etc. As most local politicians probably know, here in Salem, the Chariot's bus service in Salem will also be adding a payroll tax to all citizens and business owners in the Salem-Keizer area beginning in January 2026. All these taxes are just too much for us to bear. Please consider working to find other ways to get more revenue for the state. I have already had to cut back employee hours due to the decline in our business for many other reasons, such as soaring food and labor costs, new paid parking in downtown Salem that has led many customers to not want to come downtown any longer. When we are in hard times like these, everyone must tighten their belt, even the state, counties, and cities. These taxes cannot continue to get passed down to us, the citizens, who are struggling to make ends meet and having to do our own tightening of belts by cutting employee hours, letting people go, in some cases, people closing their businesses. We have been in business for 41 years and have had many struggles over the years, but this is some of the worst that we've felt. It's like COVID times getting close to that all over again, except we have no relief from the government, just more taxes. We ask that you take the time to consider our words and that you would take the concerns seriously and consider the little people who put you where you are now to be our voice, the people's voice. Thank you, Javier and Xochitl. Thank you.
Thank you, Xochitl. Next, we are going to hear from Sylvia Schreiber. Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you.
My family has owned and operated a towing and automotive business on the Oregon coast for 55 years. We are the biggest towing service that covers Tillamook and the small towns between us. We are struggling with insurance rates skyrocketing, fuel that is still high, and trying not to take it out on our customers. We have a yard full of vehicles that will not be picked up from the owners who don't usually register their vehicles, let alone have driver's license or insurance. If they pass the new DMV fees, it's going to be a huge issue that Oregonians cannot afford. This proposed increase will just make a bigger issue that will spiral out of control. I also don't think by raising payroll tax. The Oregon taxes are already outrageous and out of control and not benefiting the working class at all. Every community and small rural towns are suffering. Small businesses can no longer thrive and grow. Every one of the proposed increases is really tough. It is sad that lifelong Oregonians don't even want to live in Oregon anymore. As an office manager of a small family business, it's disgusting to see the working class suffer and struggle. Can you please stop raising the fees and taxes? I'm begging you all to consider our sincere concerns and facts that we are sharing today. Oregon used to be an amazing place to live, thrive, and raise families and enjoy our beautiful state. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. And next, we will be hearing from Kara Hogerborst, owner of the Feisty Wren's Soap Studio in Pleasant Hill.
Good morning. I'm here today to express my strong opposition to LC2, the Emergency Transportation Spending Package proposed by Governor Kotek and debated this week. I am the owner and operator of a small business in Lane County, established in 2013, Feisty Wren Soap Studio. I work from a studio on my property, and a large portion of my business involves product delivery by vehicle and transportation to events where I sell my products. This bill has the potential to negatively impact my business through increased fuel costs and vehicle registration costs. In addition, I am currently considering purchasing a delivery vehicle, and passage of this bill may impact my ability to make this purchase and grow my small business. From just the proposed increase in fuel tax of 6 cents, I calculated that based on my 2024 business mileage, I would pay just in the fuel tax an additional $444 per year out of my revenues in new gas taxes. As an owner of a small business, I stay within my budget and don't exceed my spending ability. I expect our state agencies to do the same. ODOT should not be coming back to the taxpayers for funding, especially as we already expressed our opposition to the first bill in the 2025 regular session. In addition, I am strongly opposed to the new per-mile tax proposal. How will this affect families and small businesses trying to keep their costs down by purchasing electric or hybrid vehicles? I am also opposed to ODOT being granted the ability to raise our taxes even higher without a public vote after 2030. As a small business owner in a high tax state, I cannot pay any additional tax burden and still be able to grow my business and support my family. I urge all the House and senators and representatives to vote no on this transportation spending package for the sake of small business in Oregon. Thank you.
Thank you, Kara. And now we will be hearing from Emily Matero, owner of Zen Bodywork in Portland.
Good morning. I have a little baby, so I might be kind of winded. I'm speaking today as a mother and a wife, someone who is deeply concerned about the direction of that our state is heading, especially when it comes to the proposed gas tax. My family is a hardworking, middle-class family, and we do everything we can to stay afloat in Portland. My husband owns a small business and used to work 5 days a week, 12-hour shifts, already a demanding schedule. But since March, he has been working 7 days a week just to keep up with the rising costs. He hasn't had a single day off in months. And why? Because of financial burden placed on us by policies like increased water bills, house taxes, and overall cost of living. many of which have been implemented under the Democratic leadership. Now, with yet another potential gas tax looming, I'm genuinely afraid. We are already stretched beyond capacity. We cannot afford any more tax hikes. Every additional cost is another hour, another day that my husband must sacrifice at work instead of spending time with us and our children. It is wearing him down physically and emotionally and is affecting our whole entire family. We are not wealthy. We're not asking for special treatment. We are simply trying to live a stable life, raise our kids, and contribute to our community. But the current trajectory is not sustainable. If this continues, the toll on my husband's health and our children's well-being may be irreversible. What's even more alarming is a proposal to give ODOT the ability to raise our taxes even further without a public vote after 2030. That is unacceptable. Taxation without direct public input is not democracy. It's a slippery slope that strips the people of any voice in decisions that deeply affect our lives. We are not just numbers, we are real people living with consequences of every decision that is made down here in Salem. I urge you, please reconsider the proposed taxes and reject any policy that removes the public from the decision-making process. The people of Oregon cannot continue to carry this burden. Thank you.
So I'll just say, I'm a small business owner as well. I had sold my business a year and a half ago to one of my employees. I was carrying the contract, so I was a banker for a little while. And through a series of unfortunate decisions, I had to take the business back. The buyer wasn't able to cash flow. He wasn't able to meet his obligations. And so this month, I took my business back. 7 vehicles, employees driving all around the state. He buried me in a little bit of debt. And being a small business owner, it's a weird situation. Most people believe that we have unlimited funds. We're very wealthy, us small business owners. And all we want to do is serve our community. We really want to deliver products to people. We want to keep employees employed. I'm buried in about $100,000 of debt obligation, and we will make it right. We're going to deliver products to customers that put down payments that I don't have. We're going to deliver those products. And those are the situations that business owners are faced with all the time. When it's imposed by the state, though, it's even more offensive, right? It's one thing when you make your own mistake. It's one thing when a construction project goes sideways and you're bearing the burden of some of the costs that you created for yourself. It's another thing to have the state burden you with it. Another tax, another regulation that drives cost, another situation that's beyond your control. And it does leave you in the predicament of how can I sustain this business in this state? How do I keep my employees employed? The upward cost pressure right now of trying to get quality people, like our minimum wage laws have caused stress in the market that I'm trying to hire people at, right? So I'm now trying to hire people at $25 an hour because I don't want to compete with a minimum wage job. I want quality employees. It's another thing, though, that ultimately consumers will pay. When I pay more for fuel, you bet your bottom dollar I'm going to charge more for the service because I can't not make money. I've got to keep the employees employed. I've got to make a little bit of money for my time. Right now, I'm going without pay, which is no big deal, right? This is the reality of being a small business owner. This is what we face. And yet we continue as the state of Oregon to ask for more from our employers. And right now, I think you've heard loud and clear, and I think we could have probably had 500,000 people lined up behind me saying the same thing. We can't afford another tax. And I want to reiterate, there's not a single one of us in either Republican caucus that don't believe in the service that we're talking about. But it's a false dichotomy that somehow this was the only choice. The only choice was to raise taxes. That's absolutely not true. The state passed a $140 billion biennial budget. When you look at it all, globally. We have all the resources in the world. What happened was we didn't prioritize this spending. These jobs were not important enough to prioritize. You are being held hostage right now by a Democrat supermajority that chose to spend money somewhere else. That is absolutely the fact of the matter. So we're here trying to figure out how we move forward. And the option being presented to us is, again, a silo. Here's the money, here's the policy topic, fill this silo, or else all these cuts come. And the reality is, we need to go back to a global conversation of the total budget and start to showcase to Oregonians that we understand what it's like to prioritize. It's what you're having to do at home. It's what we're having to do as small business owners. I'm not going to go buy a $200,000 Ferrari tomorrow and then tell you that I don't have any money for groceries, right? The state has spent money on things that are not core government function, and yet they're telling you in order to get the core government function, the only answer is more revenue. We reject that wholeheartedly, and we're going to continue to advocate for policies that offer a solution that don't cause additional burden and sustain and maintain the jobs that we believe are so important.
The House and Senate Republicans will offer an amendment in committee today, an alternative to the bill that is being advanced by the majority party. And the bill will be quite simple. It will be a measure which allows for the funding streams that are currently restricted from being used for maintenance and operations to have that restriction lifted, so that the agency will be able to hold on to jobs and keep people employed without the limitations that currently exist within the revenue streams that taxpayers are already providing. It will also include the additional portions of the bill which are accountability-based and which are technical in nature. So we absolutely believe that there is a way to solve this problem without burdening Oregonians with more costs. You will see the math today that once those revenue streams are made available for the agency to choose and prioritize internally, how do we keep these jobs? How do we perform these functions? You will see $375 million potentially available to redirect towards this challenge. We view this as a bridge. We view this as a way to get to the larger conversation about what do we do about our roads. To Senator Bonham's point, what are our priorities? We cannot continue to be all things to all people in Oregon's current budget crisis. We cannot continue to be all things to all people with the challenges that Oregonians are facing at home. We cannot continue as a state to be all things to all people if we still want small businesses to exist and for families to feel stable. We believe that we can do both, but we cannot do both if we continue the status quo. So as we begin this emergency session today, we have asked, what is the emergency? We have the money is available within the agency currently can't get to it. We would like to allow them to get to those funds to be able to prioritize and make these decisions internally without burdening Oregonians with more taxes.
We have one more speaker that didn't get to go, Cameron.
Oh, Cameron, I'm so sorry. Come on up.
Would you like me to go?
Yes, please. I
Great.
apologize.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cameron Henlon. I'm a lifelong Oregonian and Marine veteran. I'm here to oppose the new gas, vehicle, and payroll taxes for ODOT's budget shortfall. I'll share 3 reasons why these taxes should not be increased: family struggles, public opposition, and ODOT's waste. First, family struggles. As the sole earner for my family of 6, my wife, 3 kids, and my sister-in-law, and myself, rising bills for groceries, utilities, and taxes are becoming difficult for us to bear. My friends and their families with lower paying jobs often struggle to pay bills at month's end. These taxes make it difficult for families to afford necessities in Oregon and are pushing families to leave the state. Some firsthand examples that I have a coworker with the same job as me who recently moved to Idaho. The roads there are better and the costs are lower. He's saving $2,000 a month on state taxes. Another friend moved to Texas last year, also fed up with high housing costs. I'm considering leaving the state with my family too. Increasing taxes will be risking Oregon's taxpayer base. Second, public opposition. As noted, about 80% of Oregonians in recent polls and 96% in recent written testimony oppose these tax hikes. Following Governor Kotek's unpopular plan, risks standing with voters at re-election. Third and lastly, ODOT's waste. Many Oregonians, including my family and friends, see ODOT as mismanaged and wastes money on bloated projects, overpaid consultants, and DEI programs. My written testimony shows states like Idaho, Georgia, and Minnesota maintain better roads with less. Representative Drazan and Senator Bonham have smarter solutions that I urge you to consider. As someone who loves Oregon, I beg you, vote no and don't add to the common Oregonians' cost of living struggles. Thank you.
Time for some questions.
Thank you, Kim.
Questions for y'all?
Sure.
I want to make sure the senator here. A lot of this that I'm seeing in your press releases are similar to ideas you floated during the session. They were non-starters for the Democrats then. Seems likely that they may not take you up on this time. And it also seems likely that if you all were to mount a campaign to put this on the ballot, given history, it probably would lose. So are you committed to doing that if this bill passes? Because I know that the Trucking Association likes this bill.
So here's where we're at. We believe that it was a mistake for the Democrats to dismiss out of hand a reasonable alternative and come to the table and compromise. They didn't have to have a plan that was 100% tax increases, and our position has been all along, there are alternatives. And so we continue to advance that philosophical approach because we think it's the right one. We think it's more balanced than their plan. So it is yet to be seen if they sit down with us today and have that conversation. We're here for that. But when it comes to the referral to the ballot, you don't have to refer the entire measure to the ballot. You can refer portions of the measure. So the fixes for accountability, the fixes for the trucking industry, those wouldn't come before voters. What would come before voters is the tax increase.
And are you committed to leading that campaign then, if this passes?
We absolutely believe that it's critical to stand up for Oregonians, and we'll do everything we can to do that.
But I think to the second part, you described it perfectly, right? Democrats have called our ideas non-starters, a bridge too far. And I think the challenge for me is if I come to you and offer you $10 for the tie that you're not wearing, and you say, well, I want 20, do we just say we're at an impasse and walk away from each other? Or do you say, man, is there any way you could get to 15? Like, it's been zero attempt to try and find compromise. There are areas in between where we have put forward a proposal, where they have put forward a proposal that we could probably find common ground, and literally we've been told no, we're not even going to talk about it. So, how do you negotiate with somebody that won't negotiate with you? You take a stand. And the nice thing is, when do we have power as Republicans? When the people are standing with us. Literally, Democrats know this is unpopular. They know that this won't fly in the next election cycle. They're going to pay a political price for this. They know it, and yet they're still unwilling to engage with us. And that, to me, is what's shocking.
So are you committed to leading the referendum campaign?
I'm committed to being part of the team that absolutely gets this thing on the ballot so that the people have the right to choose. Yeah.
Any quick question? I'm Alex from Capital Chronicle. One sort of nuts and bolts. Are there statutory limitations to what you're proposing here with some of the redirection of money?
Yeah, it takes a statutory fix to redirect the money. So ODOT right now doesn't have the authority, and that's why our proposal does dig into the actual statute and moves those funds around so that they have access to them.
So that's something that you could do over the next...
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not something that has to be kicked down the road.
No, we're lawmakers, and we're proposing a change in the law.
Okay. My second question is just, we got this today. It sounds like you haven't had a lot of conversations with Democrats in the lead up to today? Have you shared this with them prior to when you got it?
The proposal?
The proposal.
Oh, yeah, they've been aware of our proposal. I would say we've been talking about this seriously for about 7 months. Really seriously since April when they put forward their proposal. They'll tell you that we've been talking about this for 2.5 years, which is even more shocking that they've really been unwilling to engage with us. But we've had the same idea this entire time to try and figure out how to create the bridge from where we are today, where they say we have a $350 million budget hole. I think it's 358. Now they're about to raise $6 billion in taxes. I don't know how the math works on, you know, what the delta is over 10 years, 600 million a year versus 358 that they say they need. What are we doing with the extra money? That's a question we should all be asking. But again, yeah, they've been well aware of what we want and where we would be willing to find common ground. And again, it's just been a lack of willingness to engage.
On the statutory changes, since we were talking about that, the governor's senior transportation advisor said that changing statutes like that could have ramifications like reduced federal matching dollars and canceled bridge projects, like long-term ramifications. What's your response to that?
So what's interesting is they kind of want to have it both ways, don't they? They're telling us that the hole that we're fixing right now is for people that fill potholes and plow our roads, and it's maintenance and operations. Our federal grants, our federal match is typically for projects. It's typically for Rose Quarter, Abernathy Bridge, I-5 bridge replacement. And so, you know, last time I checked, we were dependent on the state to maintain our state level agencies. And when we go pursue grants, it's for projects. It's to expand roadways, it's for preservation. And so I would say that you cannot say that the challenge and the emergency is that we're not going to have our roads plowed, and then also say what you're risking is federal dollars.
Well, again, to my original comments, like this should be a global budget conversation and not transportation in a silo. Like there are plenty of other allocated resources by the state to things that are not core government function. And so they're leaving those off limits. So if you're really concerned about federal match and you're really concerned about where we draw money down, then you really have to open up the entire budget to have this conversation seriously, and they're unwilling to engage there. So I appreciate their talking point, but it's not real that money isn't available. It's just that they're not allowing us to touch that money.
And let's also be clear, the governor is risking federal dollars in every other category every single day by choice. She is choosing to kind of thumb her nose at the federal administration and put Oregonians at risk every day. So whenever they put requirements on what the federal grants might require of Oregonians, she says, we're not doing that in Oregon. And that means she's turning her back on the possibility of federal dollars. So I just don't buy the argument from her at all.
This bill cuts, or this amendment to the bill would cut things like funding for the bicycle and pedestrian program, the passenger rail program. What's your response to those that say these are critical programs for public safety?
So budgets express priorities. I'm going to say this for maybe the 1,000th time. And what we're giving the agency is the authority to do right by Oregonians and prioritize. This amendment, this legislation doesn't mandate a change in use. The legislation gives them the authority to be able to prioritize within all of the resources available to them, highest and best use, core function, and then nice to have additional needs. And I think that's the proper way for the state to actually approach all budgets. And right now, those dollars have been set aside, and actually they're more safe and more protected than everything else that we actually need to get done on our roads. And I think that's a broken system.
But I think, too, you are really relating to Oregonians with that approach. When your budget constricts, you eat out less. You don't buy the fancier version of the suit jacket you want, or the shoes that you want, or the whatever in your household you need. Like you buy the affordable option, and you prioritize food on the table before you prioritize something else. And so, like, allowing the agency to say this core function has to exist before we do the thing that we want. I think Oregonians want bike and ped, but they need a road. And so if an agency has to prioritize need versus want, I think that's appropriate right now in this particular budget season, in this particular economic environment. Like, I think that's responsible and responsive to people.
Anyone else?
And as you guys have talked about the trade-offs here very, very clearly, part of that in your proposal is taking money away from climate programs, electric vehicle, energy programs for the benefits of no less tax increases in the near term. How would you describe that trade-off between potential long-term impacts and relief here in the short term?
let me hit this one, 'cause
It's fine.
our caucus sat around today, literally, engaged in a conversation about who do you know that's been where in the United States, and how many of them send you a text message picture of what fuel costs. Like, why is everywhere else in the nation so much less expensive than the left coast? California, Oregon, Washington. Some of its proximity to refineries, but a ton of this is legislative, regulatory burden that shows up at the cost per gallon at the pump. So if you look at a carbon fuel standard and you say, well, that's a good idea to lower emissions over the years, but do people realize that it's probably about a 10-cent cost burden at the pump? Layer upon layer upon layer of the things that drive us up to where, on average, I think we're about $3.99 per gallon across my district, at least. You can find gas for $3.57. You can also find it for $4.29. And so, what are the cost drivers? A lot of this visionary environmental planning drive cost. Advanced clean trucks, the technology doesn't exist. EV mandates, infrastructure doesn't exist. If you look at the Oregon Department of Energy plan that they just put forward this last week, there are like 14 points they talk about transportation. So to be clear, this Band-Aid that they keep calling it, this is a Band-Aid. This doesn't fix the problem, this is a Band-Aid. But coming next is more burden, more regulatory challenge, more cost drivers, because their solution to reducing the impact to the climate from transportation is to raise revenue. It's to burden these things with tax. They don't want people driving, period. And so this small 6 cents that they're calling it, small 6 cents, is going to come with more and more taxation very soon in the name of achieving those climate goals. So if we could actually just hit the brakes on some of those goals today and roll back some of the regulatory burden, we could decrease the cost pressure, and then we can start to have a real conversation with how do we get there for your climate goals that doesn't just drive people out of the state of Oregon.
And I also think it's important that you remember what we are providing to the agency is not a cuts list. We're giving the agency the opportunity to properly prioritize their work. And so if climate is impacted by that, then that's an important conversation to have as Oregonians and certainly as state government to say, is that our top priority? Because so far, to Senator Bonham's point, it has been our top priority. And Oregonians have some of the highest gas prices in the nation. I think we're 4th in the nation, maybe 5th. Because of our culture of Oregonians can just pay more to advance my political agenda. It's time for that to stop. Thank you, guys.
We have one more question online from Claire Rush at the AP. She says, does your proposal also include a road usage charge measure?
No, it does not at this time. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.